What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we continue our coverage of Apple TV Plus's Murderbot. Today we are covering Season 1, Episode 4, titled Escape Velocity Protocol. Luke and Kyle, what did you think of the episode?
Yeah, I honestly didn't think too deeply, let's say, about a lot of things. It was a very big, let's say, effect episode. If last episode was like a big cause episode, it's kind of we just were experiencing the consequences of what happened last episode. And then I think we're really going to be looking forward to next episode and what actually is the impact of what happened at the end of this one, So
Yeah.
we'll kind of see what happens. Is it maybe the wrong way to say it's like a bridge episode almost? That might be almost the best way to describe it.
It's crazy because like these first 4 episodes could have just been one long pilot of like a crazy like HBO, like they would do it like that. It's interesting that it's broken up like this, but it's also weird to podcast in these breaks because it seems like we're like starting to talk about and have these conversations in the middle of things happening because they're 20-minute clips, like almost.
Yeah.
Some things happen here that I definitely want to question, and specifically the whole first cold opening part. And we'll just jump right into it. This is almost a flashback of the creation of Murderbot, or I guess he wasn't Murderbot at the time. This is the SEC unit, the Corporation Rim Threshold Pass Fabrication Center, where they're putting them together. And this was a cool peek behind the curtain to see what things were like. And I have some questions for you guys to see how you took some of this, because you almost got to feel that everyone that's working for the company and they're putting these SEC units together are like indentured servants almost.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what they were really saying. And another thing that they go on to say is that there's such a backlog and there's so many SEC units that are being put together that there's sometimes issues with the factory.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem is some of these employees that we were seeing here, I guess instilled, or at least what it was hinted at to me was like they instilled some of their mess ups into Murderbot, which eventually results in him caring about things like Sanctuary Moon, because that's being talked about here as he's being created. That he even goes on to say that some of these employees might have put their anxiety into him almost in a way like that. I don't know. Like, am I reading too into it, or is that just kind of what the purpose of his narrative over this beginning part was the fact that the whole process is flawed? Like, you got to see the biology and the cybernetics being put together into these robots, but there are so many mistakes that eventually, I guess, the right combination of mistakes added up to be into our main character. And that's how it all kind of happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily Murderbot himself. I mean, they do show his face, and he's one of the ones being worked on, I would assume. But I think it's more along the lines of the freaking how scary it is that they're creating these, for lack of a better terms, people that are Murderbots. They're literally people that have the ability to destroy, and it's just like, oh, meets expectations. Great. You screwed this up. Well, yeah, it's fine, dude. Move on to the next one. We're busy here. Like, Murderbot says during his narrative that SEC units go rogue, SEC units are screwed up. That's pretty crazy to think that they're allowing this kind of issue to happen regularly with their products.
So wait, let me ask on that, because that was one of the most interesting lines of the episode in hindsight, where they say, like, have you been looking at the news at all these rogue SEC units? Is there a chance that the black SEC unit that we're seeing now is an example of what they look like when they go rogue?
So I don't know if it's obviously it's confirmed it's a SEC unit. We know that it's a SEC unit that's rogue. Yes. So is it that there's rogue SEC units that can rebel and actually communicate with each other and decide they're going against the Corporation Rim or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I think the big question is, how rare is it to have something like Murderbot be able to break the government module? Is this something that can happen not regularly, but often enough from other SEC units, or is he special, like very special?
That's the weird thing, because I couldn't tell, because I swear one of the comments that we got was saying that Murderbot's pretty much the only one that's ever broken the module, but this episode almost contradicts that, where they're saying it's happening so often because of how overstaffed or understaffed, I should say, and over
Worked and
yeah, like exactly how many sec units Corporation Rim is just pumping out, and like they naturally make these mistakes, and now there's Rogue Ones on the news. I don't know if they're trying
and
to connect that to the black robot or if that's just a total coincidence and I'm reading too into it.
And also, let me just say, when they're talking about Rogue, it doesn't have to necessarily be Murderbot Rogue, as in breaking the government module and being, having sentience in a way where they're going to do whatever they want. It could just be how Murderbot was acting when the thing was in the back of his neck, where it's just there's a screw up and they're no longer listening, or they're like correctly, or they just all of a sudden malfunction and they do this instead of that. And it just could be errors that cause something to not be fully compliant to the owner.
I mean, I also think that what you're saying too of the, like, is the production process then imprinting a kind of nurture thing onto the sec units, and that it goes beyond their programming and kind of infests them at
That's what
almost an
Murderbot
atomic
made it
level,
seem
let's
like,
say.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And also
Can't
you
trust
just
him either, though, or
Yeah,
can't trust it
yeah.
either, though, man.
Yeah.
And also you just like the fact that this exists in this way is pretty crazy to me, because my picturing in my head when you're going to create sec units and Murderbot himself, I think Westworld, where it's a machine that you could just place. You could place the calculation or the protocols, procedures in there, and boom, it's going to make a sec unit. To have human error and have it be a regular thing, literally sitting there and saying, "This arm looks shitty, man. Come on, you screwed up." Like, that is pretty wild to me.
Yeah, definitely. I like
Again,
the
maybe
comment that the guy has that he's just like at the end, he's like, "What are you looking at, bitch? I'll kick your ass."
Yeah.
that made me like actually laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
the other thing, like, and I don't even know if these are questions that matter, but like that was Murderbot's face, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So was he like sentient right there to be able to hear that?
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah.
I can't tell how
Not
much it's comedy and how much it's like actually trying to instill some of this world building rules to us. It's like such a fine balance that they have to take because of the tone of the entire show. But it felt important that he narrated over that scene and we got to see that. Maybe we'll get more, but also we might not, just because of the length of episodes and how fast everything moves.
And I do want to call out, props to everyone listening and commenting and giving us all the background information. They're saying, wait, hopefully we'll get the answers. And we're getting the answers. 20-minute episodes. To your point, Luke, I would say probably the first 3 episodes would work, and that fits 20 minutes to 60 minutes 3 times. But, that could be one episode. The fact that they have to do 20 minutes at a time, it's going to take time as in episodes to explain everything to us. In this episode, as in episode 4, they do explain a little bit further into how the sec units are created and everything like that, and going into why do they have faces and why do they use human DNA and all of that kind of stuff, which is nice to, and it's nice to be able to have the trust that they are going to explain it. But I didn't really give my thoughts on the episode yet, but I will just say this. I agree 100%. The 22, 25-minute episodes is just unbelievably wild, just because we're almost halfway done the season.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to say that. We're 4 episodes in, we're almost at the halfway point, and it feels almost like I've watched like one episode, like nothing almost.
We'll just have to see what happens, man. I feel like maybe the ending too could accelerate pretty nicely, especially maybe what happens at the end of this episode. But to keep it, my last comment maybe on what this initial scenes were is that, I mean, my ears perked up when they mentioned basically that they're indentured servants in that. Okay. I know we were talking about we is maybe not the right way to say. I was talking about revolution and things like that. So it's like, okay, we got a group of people here that are indentured servants to the company that might want to join us on this journey against Corporation Rim. So we'll see.
Yeah. I wonder if
don't give me that. Don't pander to me and act like you agree with me. It's
no, I'm not,
okay.
but I actually do like that. And you have to wonder, like, if they're allowing so little people to be overworked like that, they're obviously being watched because they're being told, like, yo, you need to work overtime today. And the guy's like, no, I can't do it. And, they're being watched. But my wonder too would be like, could a revolution be secretly creating these black sec units on the side without anybody even realizing? Because maybe they're being watched, but the fact that it's like they're allowed to be so half-assed making these sec units, it feels like they could easily be doing other stuff on the side.
Yeah, it's not what I
Also, too,
expected.
what is
Yeah.
the kind of balance between the requirements of making a sec unit? How much of it is the technology? How much is it the human
Right.
knowledge? Like, and not to disparage these people, but it doesn't seem like they went and got PhDs in
Right.
arms.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of throwing people on the line for the most part. Maybe the people at the screens have somewhat of more experience with certain
That's
things.
true.
But
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, is
Good
there
point.
someone that's just making these black sec units?
Yeah.
Nothing so far seems that to make me believe that it's like some crazy achievement.
Right. Right.
Sure. It could be. Yeah. And I guess I'll just take it there because obviously this black sec unit beats the hell out of Murderbot, right? And he's dragging him through the hallways and he puts the combat override module on him, all while the rest of the crew is trying to figure out what to do. Like Mensah has gone missing. She went back to try and save the day. It's a good setup, but again, this just feels like a part 2 of like last episode where this is kind of naturally what I expected to happen. She's going to go back and try and prove her connection to Murderbot because she does actually care about him. But like sorry, you're right. I guess this is kind of connecting to the end. I felt it was a little weird that half of this episode was spent on saying how he couldn't take the combat module piece off, but right as soon as it's like finishing, he's able to do it. Maybe that's me nitpicking because it already kind of got through to the system, but why was that even a thing? I
I
don't understand.
I thought the whole point was going to be that because he had the government module broken, that it wasn't going to actually override him to the point where he can't take it off.
Yeah.
Like when he's going to put his arm up and it won't allow him to take it out. I thought that pretty quickly he was going to say, oh shit, I'm different because I have the government module broken. I can just take it out. But, to what you were talking about, Luke, he got his ass beat. He's laying on the table. Before the override goes in him, he tries to have a distraction by singing, and he's like, oh, it's working. My beautiful voice is distracting the sec unit. And I understand, like, in his DNA, for lack of a better term, like, he's there to protect. He's going to throw down. But he should know. I mean, I guess there's no other option. But he should have known that even if he did get back up, he's going to get his ass whooped all over again.
Yeah.
Logistically. Logically, he would just get his ass whooped for a second time, but I guess it's just keep on fighting. But either way, yeah, the override thing was a little weird. The black sec unit put it into his neck, and he does say, like, there's something important. And then, like, as it gets further along into the override, he's like, God, what do I got to tell Mensah? There's something going on here. What is it? There's a problem. And obviously Sanctuary Moon is being woven into all of this, and we get more John Cho, and they have a lot of mainstream actors in this Sanctuary Moon show. Freaking Clark Gregg, Agent Coulson is just straight up. He's like, "Yo, hey, I'm in Sanctuary Moon, man," and the guy from I think of it as the guy from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm sure he's in other stuff, but the guy who's on his honeymoon and his wife wants to do the bang diddy bang, and but yeah. So either way, I mean, I guess they are going to bring back Sanctuary Moon pretty often.
He looked great in Sanctuary Moon when he was in his like Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, so he's Mensah, we're skipping around a little bit, but Mensah, the whole entire group is trying to get her on the mic. Get her on the pod mic, and she's saying she's not answering. Finally, she's like, all right, dude, I got something I got to do. Just stop talking to me. And Rati comes and he's like, "Let's go, baby! I'm gonna save everybody."
Well, this is the first time like the throuple thing actually really got brought up again. Like they're talking about the contract as soon as Roddy leaves, but I can't get a read on this because, like we said, it's a love triangle, and that was confirmed by one of our commenters. But Pinley goes on to say like it's just temporary, or no, not even Pinley said that.
Arata.
Arata said it.
Pin Lee
So,
says if he dies, it's null and void, the contract, right?
yeah. So I don't
But
know. I don't know
she
how
says it's
important that's going to
temporary.
be.
And then Pinley says, well, life is temporary. So the Pinley thing that stuck out to me this episode was when Mensah's kind of having the panic attack again. And she clearly has this issue with, responsibility and in the sense of like she feels overly responsible for everyone and it makes her think some type of way. And I don't know if we'll maybe dig deeper into that. Is there something an issue with like, I feel like I wrote down a child wound and like there's just something went wrong in her past potentially, and maybe there's more to dig. And then when Pinley obeys the order, and says to Mensah like, oh, like essentially cool, saying that like it was unfair, like underhanded that she pulled that, and then she goes back to the hopper, and Arata and Rati are both like, she gave you an order, like that's not how it works. Like, what do you mean she gave you an order? Like, we don't have leaders. Like, we're Preservation Alliance. It kind of actually goes against almost everything that we stand for in a way. Like, people volunteer. There's really no leadership. And, we get a little crazy sometimes on the podcast. So I'm thinking, like, is Pinley a, like, subversive tech unit and that she just, like, obeyed the order because Mensah specifically said this is an order?
Shit. That's not.
No way.
So I took this as, you just kind of blew my mind for a second, bro. This is how I took it. I took it as more of like a world building thing where they're talking about them as a group. Preservation Alliance is where they live, right? Is that correct? Where they're from?
I think it's a combination of multiple things, and that it's kind of like their society.
Yeah, so I took it as in us as a group. The hippies or whatever, as we joke around. Us as a group, we don't have a leader. We all decided that we're in agreement that we're all equals. But Mensah pulled the leadership card and they start talking about, we can't be the one to let her die. It's not fair that she's in our group. We're supposed to be equals, but why do we have to all sign up for this? It shouldn't be that anybody in Preservation Alliance signs up for it. I'm taking it as Mensah's high in Preservation Alliance, like she's an actual leader or whatever. I don't want to say like politician, but some kind of leader in Preservation Alliance where it's just she's chosen as someone who has to join this group because that's part of their culture or whatever it is, the laws. But in the group, she may be an equal, but in Preservation Alliance, she's higher up. That's how I took it. I don't know. I mean, and that's why she's hitting her with the you must follow my orders. So it's like saying, as a group, we're not supposed to be doing that to each other, but I'm telling you as, a leader in Preservation Alliance, I'm important. You're going to listen to me.
Sounds like the kind of person that maybe would have insider knowledge that Pinley is the sec unit that can be
I might be a sec unit, bro.
Ordered around.
Order me to do something. We'll find out.
She does mention, she brings up the thing of the people are talking in Preservation Alliance about joining Corporation Rim, and that feels like maybe not everyone would have that kind of information for sure.
Yeah, and if you're talking about like a past like issue when it comes to leadership, I mean, we could have something with flashbacks or find out that she, as a leader in Preservation Alliance, has some kind of PTSD on a choice she made, a decision she made where people died. And now she has that issue, whether it's one person or 1,000 people. Anytime there's anything on the line in that way, like you said, I mean, you're 100% correct. I took it the same exact way. Anytime that there's some kind of responsibility, she feels overwhelmed, major overwhelm, and responsible for the lives of everybody in that group. And the sec unit.
Do we have time for a flashback? Like how much of a flashback can we actually get? Because
all I'll say is that I really hope that if they're choosing to tell this story, that they are saying, obviously it matters how good the show does and the ratings and all that. But the way that it just seems like these 20-minute episodes, I feel like this could be like 37 seasons. So are you committing to showing me this many seasons? Like, like what if they just show us like 1 season or 2 seasons and they cancel it and there could have been 10, then we basically get nothing. I mean, obviously we have the book series and we'll just jump into that, but I don't know. I mean, guys, everyone listen, let us know. I mean, they did say that season 1 is book 1. So, I mean, if there's a lot of books, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to get the flashback now. Maybe it's in the future. And also,
Right.
are we really committed to the group of preservation line being main characters, or is this just a step on Murderbot's journey towards something more important, and they're just people that teach him, to work together and feel okay forming relationships and stuff like that. Again, all of this remains to be seen, in that we don't really have enough of a foundation of information to really work upon. It does seem like they're going to take care of him in the aftermath of this. It feels like they're getting the vibe of he protected them not only from what was inside the habitat, which ended up being this kind of black sect unit that's a rogue sect unit in their minds, but also from himself, and that he kind of shoots himself and kills himself. And I think that's a lot of brownie points in their eyes. So what will it be like, let's say, next episode when he wakes up, in a way, when he's reborn, after he gets into the kind of sect unit med health pack or whatever it is that kind of reknits him together, and how the relationship is able to move forward from this moment, because it feels like they're all going to bond a lot more to him than they have.
How does Gura react to all this? Is he going to take this open admittance of him saying he was about to kill them all as like, okay, he's reaffirming his priors, or is the fact that he went against it to break that combat module, that because he was being on Murderbot was being honest about it, like maybe that will be the key to unlocking them all being a group? Because I'm still of the mindset that this is our main cast for multiple Murderbot books until I get more information, especially when, I mean, you guys are bringing up good points. I feel like the flashbacks open itself to layers for these characters, these other non-Murderbot characters that we can get. But yeah, like how they react when he wakes up, because why would knitting him back together even override the combat module? Why would he still not be in kill mode? Like what would have changed? And I think maybe Gura's analysis of whatever's happening when they like tie him down and like he tries to do what he was doing before, where he's prodding him like technologically, maybe they'll get some information there.
Mensah could be a main character if my theory is correct. Maybe the plan, the trajectory is that Murderbot goes to Preservation Alliance and Mensah is higher up and she stays as one of the main characters and the other ones don't necessarily become full main characters. So maybe they stick around and there's other characters introduced. Everyone listening, we're going to do our best with this it for Murderbot. I know we get a lot of comments about saying he versus it. And we're trying our best here. It's tough.
It just doesn't even register as a thought for me. I'm just thinking of Alexander Skarsgård. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is tough just because you're looking at Alexander Skarsgård.
You know who is going to survive is definitely Roddy.
Yeah, let's give some flowers to the throuple because they were powerhouses this episode. Where, first of all, the non-Roddy group killed the hell out of the black sec unit with just crushing him multiple times. But Roddy, I brought this up last podcast where I kind of wanted us to all call out one of the funniest lines of the episode or the funniest moments, and mine was definitely when Roddy just finally turns the gun on and the recoil just knocks him out. Basically, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
he was using
good.
cover well. At least, like, he didn't have weapons training, but he actually was using cover.
He has a video game, man. He played that video game. Pinley was like, "Yo, bro, you're cheating." I don't know what the term she used, but she said he was cheating. But
he's funny, man. He's a character.
Yeah, Roddy's good. And again, if it ends up being that these are the main characters, I'm totally fine with that, 100%. And the interesting thing about everything that's happening now, a couple things we need to talk about is this rebellious whatever black sec unit is purposely trying to make it so that, yes, Kyle, I said it, rebellious is trying to make it so that Murderbot and the other sec unit, which didn't work out, Murderbot took care of the other one, but Murderbot's the one that has to kill these people, our crew. The sec unit, the black sec unit, was purposely missing. Murderbot figure that out pretty quickly. And why is he missing, or why is it missing purposely? Oh, it's because it wants me to be the one that it can be blamed for everything. So what's the point of that? That's some other stuff that we need to think about. What's the point of making it seem like these sec units, as in Murderbot and the other ones that were in the habitat, what's the point of this black sec unit making it seem like they are killers?
That feels also like advanced thinking beyond just orders. And we know that the sec units have a certain level of autonomy, and it's not like they're just like they think in zeros and ones, But it felt like that was an interesting thing in that it felt almost like it had its own idea.
But not nuanced enough to be human, because we saw the blue blood, right? And the standing back up after Mensah stabbed through. So that, to me, it does feel like this one is also broken its government module if it was from Corporation Rim, but I don't think it is. I still am on the team that it's basically just a different faction that's creating these sec units. And it does, now that I'm like thinking through, it almost does feel like they're trying to complete the rebellion and take the corporation down from within. If you're having all of these rogue sec units get blamed for these atrocities, that can kind of fall back on the company that's making them and have them shut down from like a public narrative perspective.
And you know what I'm thinking too? It actually isn't that crazy of a like independent logical thought process from it, because it's cleared last episode that it did this in the habitat to start with. It got the one sec unit, put the combat thing on it, and then it killed everything else, and then kind of itself along with another sec unit, so that like the black sec unit didn't get its hands dirty at all. And it probably came back to collect maybe either the bot or the combat module to cover that up, and then Murderbot happened to be there, so he kind of had to do the same thing to Murderbot. Mm-hmm. So I like this idea that there's a plot. I mean, makes a lot of sense to use the sec units, to use also that they showed us these inherently faulty sec units to then bring down the corporation in some way.
That could work. That would mean that these guys are good guys then, right? Like we would almost want that.
Well,
good's all relative, but we'll see.
Yeah, good's relative, and how do we connect it to the anomaly that we found in the earlier episodes? We don't know that yet. There's obviously a lot to learn here, but I do like what you were saying, Luke, about will this with Gura cause him to actually lean towards or against Murderbot? I'm going to say lean towards. Good. because Murderbot made the choice to kill itself to protect everybody else. Now, again, that's the sec unit supposed to protect everybody, but it's still a choice that was made, and that could prove to Gura that if this sec unit is going to get rid of itself, then it's not going to go against us. It just proved that to us. And maybe Gura can be the one using his abilities to, go in and try to fix this override.
Yeah.
And we know from Mensah just straight up drilling through the black sec unit that, he can take it. I mean, he said he's killing it itself, but
I mean, the bite from the centipede monster was worse than this.
Right. I mean, half his body was gone. So it's like, I guess it's more along the lines of take me out of commission for now, but he didn't really warn them to be like, don't bring me back to life or anything like that. It basically just said, I have to end myself so that I can protect you guys. Either way, we can assume episode 5, it's back in the hopper in the medical bay, and Gura's going to be looking into it. We haven't seen Gura. We didn't see him at all this episode, right?
Nope.
Right. So, yeah.
I think that pretty much freaking does it. Do you guys have any other funny lines? Because I brought up the 2, which was Roddy knocking himself out, and then what are you looking at, bitch? I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, that was my funniest line. I like that one. Yeah. And I will say I'm very excited to find out this stuff about Mensah because you kind of did blow my mind, Kyle. And I love talking about these TV shows with, multiple podcast hosts because I saw it so clearly as them explaining to us that she's a big deal in Preservation Alliance. But then you saying, that Pinley could be a sec unit that, she doesn't realize it or whatever, whether that's true or not, it makes me go, oh shit. Okay. So I'm excited to find out what's coming.
Yep.
Luke, anything?
I'm good.
All right, guys. Well, Murderbot season 1, episode 4, season 1, episode 4, season 3, episode 27. We didn't really talk before I end. We didn't really talk too much about Sanctuary Moon, besides the fact that there's some very big stars on Sanctuary Moon, but obviously it was interwoven throughout the episode, and there was a lot of funny parts with Alexander Skarsgård and not realizing that he as the actor, but not realizing it's in the middle of something very dangerous and instead thinking it's in the middle of the TV show and placing Mensah into the TV show and all, and placing Skarsgård into the TV show and acting wacky as shit. Like that was funny to me too. But again, it's tough. There's not too much to talk about with it being that's kind of like the comedy side of things. I know Sanctuary Moon is going to be important, so I don't want any of the listeners to think that we're brushing it aside. But otherwise, guys, if you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with episode 5 very, very soon. If you are a sci-fi fan, if you're an Apple TV fan, check out our coverage of Foundation. Me and Kyle are watching for the very first time seasons 1 and 2 leading up to season 3. Luke, as the veteran, is guiding us along on our way. July 11th, Foundation season 3 is out, and we are going to be covering it week to week. Otherwise, me and Kathleen are just finishing up with Your Friends and Neighbors, so we have a lot of Apple TV coverage on the core podcast currently, and Binge Empire, our other podcast, is covering The Last of Us that has the season finale coming, and also we'll be moving on with a lot of other TV shows on Binge Empire that are non-Apple TV. So if you like our coverage, we have 7 podcast hosts. Any combination of us are going to be on the core and Binge Empire. So please hit that subscribe button over there as well. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.